I'd like to show you what I do to prepare for an unusual space. And it's becoming more and more usual in my mode. When I'm working in corporate retreats, for example, people are in very casual, relaxed spaces. And this will work, this technique about preparing for visuals will work for a living room setting like we have here, where you have very little spot, there's very little window, wall space, etc. to post your visuals, your flip charts, your instructions, that kind of thing. So I'm going to show you how I prepare my visuals for that kind of setting. And it will also work really well in smaller, tight spaces, even if it's not a casual setting, where you don't have a lot of wall space, maybe you've got a wall of windows and you don't want to cover them with flip chart sheets, etc. So let's go over to the table and I'll show you how I prepare for that situation. So here I've spent a lot of time preparing my visuals. I've taken my detailed facilitator's agenda and I've decided the key questions I want to ask, the small group instructions that I have, and anything that needs to go with each activity. And so I've laid it all out on this table, and I'm going to point out I have things like for tent cards over here, and I have a couple of small group instructions and a little template that I'm going to have them work on, a flip chart that I want to post up at some point, and some handouts and different instructions. I've got my colored folders ready to organize things. I've got different kinds of paper that I want to use for different activities. And finally, this is where I prepared some visuals. So for example, this is probably a font size of 90 to 100 on a printer. And I just printed out and put a little bit of a quick border around it. You can see I've got a lot of them. I've kind of organized them in the order that I want. You know, I'm set up for every possibility, basically. So I've got, so this might be my first activity. And what I'll do is I'll take that first activity and I'll pop it up at some point in the room, which I'll show you in a minute. And I have a second question that I want them to answer at the same time. So I stick that into my file folder. Let's say I want to just say, remember, this is how I start green to start. I put these in my file folder. I put a bunch of tent cards over here, and then I can pass out those tent cards, and I've got my markers nearby. And then I'll label this intro activity. And so that's ready, and that's at the top of my pile. And so that's how I start. And then maybe the next activity is something where I'm asking them, this is a team building activity, so what gives us stress as a team, and I've got the question under here. And I want to make sure that they fill out a handout. So I've got a handout for them here. They're going to fill out this handout in small groups of 3 or 4. Each person's going to have a handout. One person will be a scribe and kind of take notes as the team is discussing this question. And again, I will put that in, so that's just, I'm still kind of warming the team up, and I'm thinking orange, and I can even fold this so that it's not so difficult. But I've got all my handouts for the team, small group instructions, and I've got the visual to go with that. And I'll just put this as, team stressor activity, and I'll put that as my second file. So you can see where I will, like in another activity, I might have stars that I want them to pop up onto a sticky wall. So I'll stick that in the file with the right visual instructions. So maybe it's like write and sign a short appreciation, and they write those appreciations on little cutout stars. So I've got everything ready to go. I've got my 4 or 5 activities for my event, and I've got them labeled and I've got them ordered, and when I arrive at the site, I just lay them out on the table one by one, and I'm ready to go. And that's really helpful if you're by yourself, not co-facilitating, and you're going to move from several activities very quickly. So that's my tip for the day, and I hope that you are now more organized for your next event.